Links to all the interfaces can be found in the description of this video. Let's get right to it. Number 7, Arturia Minifuse 1 and 2. For a lot of these, I'll be giving you 2 interfaces in one because it'll be up to you to decide if you want to go with the one that allows you to plug in 1 microphone, or if you want to spend more money and go with the version that allows you to plug in 2 microphones. These interfaces come in both black and white. They are USB bus powered, so they require no external power source other than the computer. Both interfaces give you a set of balanced TRS line level outputs on the back to plug in your monitors. They both come with a USB-C to USB-A connection to connect to your computer. Both interfaces give you 1 headphone jack. You also get 2 MIDI connectors on the back of the Minifuse 2 that's not included with the Minifuse 1. As stated earlier, the Minifuse 1 gives you 1 XLR/TRS combo input, while the Minifuse 2 gives you 2 inputs. The preamps on both interfaces supply you with a healthy amount of gain, enough to even power the gain-hungry SM7B without using a gain booster. And the interface's self-noise is quite low, which is always great to hear. Something interesting that you can find that's unique to these interfaces is a USB-A connection on the back of the interface that can actually be used as a USB hub. Pretty neat. These interfaces also come with some extra software that can be downloaded when purchased. Ableton Live Lite, Analog Lab Intro, Arturia FX, Native Instruments Guitar Rig 6 LE, Auto-Tune Unlimited, Splice Creator Plan. Number 6 is the Audient ID4 and 14 Mark II. These interfaces are USB bus powered, so they require no extra power other than your computer. Something to note here is that they come with a USB-C to USB-C cable, so if you want to use a USB Type A port, you'll need to buy an adapter. You get 2 headphone connectors on both interfaces, but they're different sizes. The first being a 3.5mm connection, and the other is a 1/4" jack. So you can hook up 2 headphones at once, but it's important to note that you can't control both headphone volumes individually. You get 2 balanced 1/4" outputs on the ID4, but on the ID14, you get 2 individual sets of outputs. The Audient ID4 gives you 1 microphone input, and the 14 gives you 2 microphone inputs. The preamps give you a very generous amount of gain, enough to power the gain-hungry SM7B without a gain booster, and the self-noise of the interface is incredibly low. You'll also get a DI input on both interfaces for an electric guitar. Special note here, I personally haven't had this happen to any of my students, but I've heard that these interfaces have a reputation of just possibly going out after about a year of use. Now, let me clarify again here. I haven't had this happen to any of my students personally, and it could just be a bad batch of interfaces. This can happen. I just wanted to include this here for your convenience. They've probably got this now fixed, but anyway, I just wanted you to know. And lastly, these interfaces also come with some software bundles that you can download after you purchase the interface. The software includes Cubase and Cubase LE3, RetroLog 2, Mtron Select, Turbo Wall of Sound, 3 free online courses from Produce Like a Pro, Loop Cloud, Waldorf Edition 2 LE, SonarWorks. Number 5, Motu M2. This interface is bus powered with a USB-C connection and comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable to plug into your computer. On the back of the interface, you'll find both an unbalanced RCA connection and a fully balanced connection via 1/4" TRS output for your monitors. You'll also find a MIDI input and output, as well as a power switch on the back, so you don't have to unplug it if you want to power it down, which is awesome. On the front, you get 2 XLR TRS combo inputs for your microphones and instruments, as well as your standard 1/4" headphone jack. You'll also have the option of turning on 48 volts phantom power for each individual input, which is super nice. The preamps in this interface supply you with a really healthy amount of gain, and yes, enough to not need a gain booster to power the Shure SM7B. The self-noise of this interface is also really low, which always helps. This interface sports a small LCD screen on the front that allows you to set your input levels, which is nice. I just wish they had a scale so that you could have a better idea of where your levels are sitting exactly, but this is still nice to have nevertheless. And like the others, this interface also comes with some downloadable goodies with the purchase of this interface. They include Motu Performer Lite, Ableton Live Lite, and 100+ virtual instruments, as well as loops and sounds. Number 4, SSL2. On the back of the interface, you get 2 balanced 1/4" TRS outputs for your monitors, and right next to those, you get 2 XLR TRS combo inputs for your microphones and instruments. And finally, you get a 1/4" headphone jack. This interface is bus powered with a USB-C connection and comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable as well as a USB-C to USB-C cable to plug into your computer. I'm a huge fan of the layout on the top of the interface, so let's talk about that. The top of the interface very much resembles a mixing console. Each channel has its own individual phantom power buttons, and one thing I really love about this interface, just like the Motu M2, is the inclusion of meters for each individual channel. Now, even though I love that they added this, just like with the Motu, I wish they had given us a bit more to work with here. With the 10 dB increments, it's a bit challenging to really nail down your levels precisely, but even still, it's a nice feature to have. The preamps in the interface have an ultra-low self-noise, and they provide a healthy amount of gain, and yes, you guessed it, enough to power the gain-hungry SM7B without needing a gain booster. Now, one feature that makes this interface stand out is its famous 4K mode. According to Solid State Logic, the 4K mode produces a slight high-frequency boost as well as introducing some distortion into the audio. This emulates the sound which their 4000 series EQs are known for. Now, while I think this is a neat feature to have, I always err on the side of caution here. This feature was designed for musicians, and even for them, but especially for content creators that are using this interface just to record their voice, I'd suggest not having this feature engaged. I've talked about this before, but a lot of beginners associate brighter audio with being better, and that's just not the case. Engaging this feature will likely enhance harsh sounds in the recording, like sibilance. Sibilance is just a harsh S sound, and it's worse for some people than others, but this feature can also enhance harsh sounds such as ch sounds and t sounds and things like that. As a content creator like a YouTuber, a podcaster, or a live streamer, you want your audio to be really, really easy to listen to. Brighter audio is fatiguing to the ears, especially for long-form narration or long-form content. You want your audio to be easy on the ears, so you keep your viewers watching and not clicking off of your video because it hurts too much to listen to. I might make a video all about this in the future. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to. It's definitely one of the most important things for content creators to understand. Just wanted to give that bit of warning here. This interface also comes with some downloadable goodies with purchase. Vocal Strip 2 and Drum Strip plugins, Amplitude 5 SE, Native Instrument, Hybrid Keys, and Complete Start, Ableton Live 11 Lite, AAS Session Bundle, Melodyne Essential from Celemony, and samples from Loop Cloud. Number 3. UA Volt 276. Now let me first say that I could have easily put the UA Volt 1 here, but the UA Volt 276 comes with an extra feature that I briefly talked about back in my best audio interface video, so just know if you don't want the extra feature and can't afford to spend the extra money, the Volt 1 is a great interface as well. First off, people just love the way these interfaces look. The wood gives them a really unique look as well as the overall layout and design. The interface is bus powered with a USB-C connection and comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable to plug into your computer. But it also gives you a 5-volt DC connection in case the device the interface is connected to via USB-C doesn't supply enough power. That's pretty nice. On the back of the interface, you get 2 MIDI connections, 1 input and 1 output, as well as 2 balanced 1/4-inch TRS outputs for your monitors. You also get a power switch on the back that allows you to power down the unit without needing to unplug it, which is always convenient. On the front of the interface, you get 2 XLR TRS combo inputs. You only get 148 volts phantom power button, meaning you don't get individual control of each channel like we have with the past few interfaces on the list. That's a bummer, but it's not that big of a deal. And finally, you get a 1/4-inch headphone jack. Now on the top of the interface, just like with the past 2 interfaces, the UA Volt 276 provides you with an input and output meter, but also like with the past 2 interfaces. I wish they had given us a little bit more to work with here. But again, it's still nice to have. Now, what makes this interface stand apart from the others? Well, 2 things, actually. Number 1, it gives you front-end compression, and number 2, it gives you the vintage mode. If you don't know what front-end processing is, make sure to go watch my best audio interface video where I break that down. First, let's talk about the vintage mode. This mode is a lot like the 4K mode we talked about with the SSL2, and it's a lot like the Air mode that's included with the Focusrite interface. The vintage mode is emulating the legendary Universal Audio 610-2 preamp, and as stated with the 4K mode on the SSL2, this was made more so for musicians, and I still recommend not engaging the vintage mode on this interface for capturing vocals, as in content creators, not music. You don't want your audio to be fatiguing to listen to, and you can't unbake a cake. James What are you even talking about? You're talking about cakes now. We need to be talking about audio. What I mean is, if you use front-end processing, it will be baked into the recorded audio. It can't be undone. So if you end up not liking what you recorded after the fact, you'll need to re-record everything. Not ideal. Now, the real reason content creators would potentially want to purchase this interface, the front-end compression. This compressor emulates the legendary UA1176. You have a vocal setting, a guitar setting, a fast setting, and finally, you can just have it off. This feature is awesome if you want to ensure you won't clip your audio while recording your video. It's a nice feature to have. I'm sure you've noticed a trend here, but this interface also includes some downloadable goodies with purchase. These downloads include Marshall Plexi Classic, Amp Bundle by Softtube, Ableton Live 11 Lite, Melodyne Essential by Celemony, Ampeg SVT VR Classic Bass Bundle by Plugin Alliance, LX480 Essentials by Relab Development, Virtual Drummer Deep by UJAM, Virtual Bassist Dandy by UJAM, and Labs by Spitfire Audio. Though Labs is already free just by going to Spitfire Audio's website, so there's that. Number 2. The Apollo line of interfaces, Apollo Twin. All right, and now we get to the Apollo line of interfaces. I'll be focusing on the Apollo Twin here because it's the most widely used out of the Apollo line. Now, this interface stands out because of its front-end processing and emulation capabilities. And I realize that's probably really confusing, but we'll get there in a moment. First, let's break down this interface. The interface comes with its own separate power supply to properly power the interface. And there's a version for PC and a version for Mac, which will dictate if you get a Thunderbolt 3 connection or one that has a USB 3 connection. Also, special note here, if you get the Mac version of this interface, for whatever reason, they don't include a Thunderbolt 3 cable for you to plug into your computer. This has always really irritated me because these interfaces are quite pricey and they can't even include a cable that you need to actually use the interface. Yeah, I don't know. On the front of the interface, you get a 1/4-inch Hi-Z input for your instruments, as well as a standard 1/4-inch headphone output. On the back of the interface, you will find 2 1/4-inch balanced outputs for your monitors, and 2 line-level outputs to run out to any external gear. You'll get 2 XLR/TRS combo inputs, and yes, they give you enough gain to properly power the Shure SM7B without needing a gain booster. Now, the main reason people would actually want to go and spend the money on this interface: front-end processing and hardware emulation. See you in the next video. No, but really, these interfaces do give you front-end processing capabilities, as well as emulating super expensive hardware that 99% of us wouldn't otherwise be able to obtain. Now, like I said, if you want a full explanation of what front-end processing is, don't forget to go check out my last video, which was Best Audio Interface. But like I said, not only do you get front-end processing capabilities, you also get the ability to make your interface emulate hardware, like the Manley VoxBox or the Avalon 737, for example. The actual hardware would cost you multiple thousands of dollars, while the plugins only cost you a couple hundred or even less when they're on sale. But you're probably asking yourself, do the plugins actually sound as good as the hardware? I mean, how close can they really get at that price point? Well, lucky for you, there are lots of videos on YouTube comparing just that, and 99% of people can't even tell the difference. This is pretty amazing. With the click of a button, you can turn your Apollo Twin into a Manley VoxBox, which is a $5,000 piece of equipment, for the cost of $150. These capabilities are what make this interface so expensive and sought after by so many. Now, do you need these capabilities? Only you can answer that question for yourself. If you're a content creator and you simply want to record clean, professional audio for your YouTube videos, you may not ever need to bother with any of this. If you're a voice actor simply trying to push out clean, professional sounding auditions, then you, even more than most, probably don't ever need to bother with any of this. There's a few scenarios where a voice actor would actually need these capabilities, but if you don't need any of this extra confusion and you're just looking for something simple, clean, and efficient, what interface would you go with? Well, you could definitely go with a couple already mentioned in this list, but I'd suggest going with the Focusrite Solo or 2i2 3rd Gen. Now let me go ahead and immediately correct some possible worries about this interface right up front. The first and second generation of this interface were riddled with issues. I experienced this personally, as did my brother and some of my students. The third generation has fixed these issues. Like I said in my previous video, I use the Focusrite 2i2 at work and have never had a single issue, and none of my students have ever had a single issue with their Solo or their 2i2. Now, does that mean you will always get a perfectly working interface? No. But I could say that about any interface that you buy. Now, the only difference between these two interfaces is something we talked about earlier. The 2i2 allows you to plug in 2 microphones, while the Solo only allows you to plug in 1 microphone. Now, there is one other difference, which is the 2i2 has separate knobs for turning up and down the speakers and the headphones, whereas the Solo sums these knobs into one knob, meaning when you turn up your headphones, your speakers are also going to be turned up, which is extremely annoying to me, but whatever. I'm not a fan of this, which is one of the reasons I bought the 2i2 rather than the Solo, because when I'm using headphones, I don't want to hear what's coming out of the monitors at the same time. And I'm lazy and I don't want to get up and turn down the monitors individually on the back of them. This is a USB-C bus-powered interface that comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable. On the back of the interface, you get 2 1/4-inch balanced TRS outputs for your monitors, as well as the USB-C port. Super simple and effective. On the front of the interface, you'll get a 48 volts phantom power button with the Air button right beside it. This essentially does what the 4K button does on the SSL2 interface we talked about earlier in the list. It also has a standard 1/4-inch headphone output, and you'll either get 2 XLR TRS combo inputs or 1, depending on if you get the Scarlett 2i2 or the Solo. The Solo also gives you a 1/4-inch instrument input as well. The self-noise of these interfaces are incredibly low, and the preamps give you enough gain to run the Shure SM7B without a gain booster. This interface, just like the others, comes with some downloadable goodies upon purchase. Hitmaker expansion, Ableton Live Lite, Focusrite plugin collective, 3-month Avid Pro Tools subscription, and a 3-month Splice Sound subscription. I think the main thing that you could take away from this video is that pretty much most interfaces these days will supply you with clean, professional sounding audio. The main factor dictating what interface you're going to buy is honestly what free goodies they come with, as well as do you need front-end processing. But this is so great for us, the consumer, because for the most part, we're not worrying about if the interface will perform the way we need it to. Let me know in the comments which interface you'll be going with and why, or what interface you already have and why you love it. All right. Well, you know what they say.